Christopher Lennertz, an Emmy nominee for writing Never Truly Vanish from The Boys. I know you're biased, but do you agree that this is one of the greatest power ballads of all time?
Oh my God, I've never. I wanted, I wouldn't rate my own thing in a public fashion like that. I will say though, it was certainly one of the most fun power ballads to write of all time, and it might be. I will say that it probably is one of the best dramatic uses of a power ballad of all time, because you don't get a chance often to write power ballad for a dead superhero that blew up with internally inserted explosive device. It's
And
not
you
normally what gets nominated for awards, so I'm very excited that it did at that point.
This is performed by Starlight at Translucent's funeral. So when did you find out you had to write this song?
It obviously was done before the show was shot, and that was episode 1 of season 2. So it was probably a good 6 to 8 months before that season 2 started shooting. So we had just finished season 1, and it was kind of I decided halfway through season 1 that I didn't want to see anything before, because it was so shocking, and I realized that I would write more authentic shock music and things. I would sort of write from the audience perspective when I just sort of would see an episode. And so they all knew, well, don't send Chris stuff. He likes to watch it when we spot. But all of a sudden I got this script in my inbox, and Eric, our showrunner and my dear friend, said, you're going to want to look at this one, because I need you to out Celine Dion. And I was like, okay. And so of course, after season 1 of The Boys, I'm like, I had no idea where that would fit in. And I remember just reading the script and just being, like, oh my God, this is going to be so much fun. I tend to love really over the top straight parody, especially in music. I got to do it in Sausage Party, and I got to do it, a lot working with Alan Menken on Gallivant and things like that. We do a lot of really straight parody, and the straighter you play it, the funnier it is. And as soon as I read the script for episode 1 in season 2, I was like, oh my God, this is like a perfect setup. So it's on the tee, and I just had to not mess it up, and hopefully I didn't.
So did you listen or go back to any real legit power ballads for inspiration? Did you just binge Celine Dion songs for a while?
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, I mean, I kind of went, I went through all of my favorites, and whether, I mean, it's Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, Adele, a little, Bonnie Tyler from the 80s. I mean, there were so many great power ballads, and I sort of got them all in my head for a couple days, and sat down, and Eric and I talked about it, and he had said, he said it's got to have sort of the contemporary production of an Adele, but it should be, sufficiently cheesy, I think was his words, when it like Titanic or something like that. So that's really where it came from, and I, it opposite to what Michael Abels just said. There was no light touch for this. This was swing for the fence, and as over the top as we could make it is exactly what it needed. And the funnier it would be funnier if it was really over the top. So that's kind of what we did with it.
Yeah, I don't think in this case you can ever do too much, and especially with the type of show The Boys is, it's intentionally subversive, so. But you also score the show, and the score, it has a lot of rock and electronic elements, and this is a piano ballad. So how did this compare to writing the score?
I mean, the fun thing about The Boys in general, that's been such a surprise from the beginning, is that eclectic palette that I get, because I do get to write big orchestra stuff, albeit orchestra stuff that we manipulate to make it sound demented eventually. But, I get to write a Marvel style piece, and then I get to follow it up with something that literally could be the instrumental, outtakes from a Clash album or something like that. And then I got this, this opportunity to write this song, and then the other song in season 2 was a, a rap song that I got to actually perform on screen, which was really crazy. So so to be able to have one show, that gives me an opportunity to do all of these different things was amazing. But for me, the, power ballads and really sort of what I would consider sort of that like iconic, emotionally earnest, sort of it's what would be an I Want song in a Broadway musical. There aren't a lot of those. People don't ask you to write those very often. People don't ask anybody to write those very often, unless it's like a Disney musical. It's really not, but everyone wants to write one. So for one of my best friends in the entire world that I went to college with to like call me up and say, hey, I know we got one of the best shows on TV right now. Can you write me the song that everybody wants to write for their entire career? And by the way, don't hold back, go further with it than you think you should go. Was amazing, and then to have the star of the show happen to have an amazing voice and be fully into it. It was just a treat, and such every surprise was better than the last. So it was just amazing to be involved and have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you wrote the lyrics with Michael Saltzman, who's one of the producers and writers. So what was that process like?
Well, Michael had written the script for the show, and so when I got the script, there was already a good hook, and lyrically, that I just had to change a little bit just to have the rhythms fit. And then he also had the opening verse. The first, I think, four lines of that were already suggested, and then he said, take it from there. And so I just had to do some reworking of the rhythms, and then I kept going with what he presented to me, because he also had a great description of the whole scene and how we were going to cut to, we were going to cut to a floating yarmulke and and an empty casket and all this stuff. So with a suit, but nobody in it. So there were all these great visual lines. So when we got to things like and though I could see through you, it seems we hardly knew you, I confess, and things like that. Like all of those things started to just come. And and so once I was done with a demo, I sent it back to Eric and to Michael, and we would give comments. We did a couple of tweaks on lyrics back and forth from there, and so for me, he just gave me a great canvas and a great description as a writer, and it was such a great episode. I took it from there, ran with it, and then made sure that they were happy with where it was going, and they were, which was cool. But it wasn't we weren't sitting in the room together, which is what you would normally do. But because he's a screenwriter more than a lyricist, we actually just went back and forth, and I had I sort of took what he gave me and ran with it, and then sort of made it musical and made it rhythmic, and so it would fit with cadences and things like that. But he gave me the perfect setup, and it was really, really great, and I'm so so grateful that he did.
A good hook is the most important, I feel like, because that's what you want everyone to say. So what do you think makes a good parody song? Because we've had a lot over in like film and TV. So what do you think is like the secret?
I mean, I think the thing for me with all of these, all of what I would consider to be the greatest parody songs, and I'll mention some of it. Like I still think, one of my other nominees in this category is Mark Shaman, and I can't even count how many amazing parody songs were in the South Park movie, but the sort of the Les Mis parody in that was spectacular. And then Alan Menken's done a bunch of great parody songs as well. There was also a Les Mis parody in Gallivant called We Rise, which was fantastic. But I think what they all have in common is that they, rather than trying to ape a song in its melodic or compositional material, what they do is they ape the not the incentive, but the intent. So if it was a Les Mis parody, it would be the intent of rising and fighting and doing all this kind of stuff and getting people together. But in a situation like Never Truly Vanish, the intent there is to have that everything from I will always love you, my heart will go on, Total Eclipse of the Heart, all of those songs that I listened to, I've known my whole life. What the intent there was, it was a very singular, it was an I moment. It was for Starlight to sort of serenade Translucent in a way that was very much her delivering almost like a eulogy to him, but live. And so I would take, I mean, we needed a big drum break. There are all those things that are always in.
The bridge is my favorite part, honestly.
Yeah, the bridge. I mean, you need a big bridge. You need a bridge that builds and goes into a big drum break, and then you need like the huge final chorus with background support, background vocals, and so you kind of go through, and I almost made a checklist of like, all right, what do all these songs have in common, and we need all of them. And we need our own version of all of those, but doing it in a way where it's still our song. And that was really, it was a challenge. And, you know, and it was, again, it was an opportunity to play in a sandbox that every composer wants to play in, every songwriter wants to play in, but we actually don't get asked to play in very often. And when we do, if it's not a parody, if it's a serious situation, you know, you do have to play it with a lighter touch. You don't necessarily want to go as over the top as you would in a parody comedy situation. So so to have like the handcuffs taken off and have Eric just say to me, no, seriously, you can't overdo it. Just do it. That's like every songwriter's dream. Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there going to be any songs in season 3?
I can tell you there will be songs in season 3 because Eric already shared that. I can't say how many, but there are some really, really fun in-world song moments that people can look forward to. So yeah.
Awesome. Chris, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you back here in a little bit.
Can't wait. Thanks so much.